Knowing how to sell yourself in a job interview or application is such a valuable skill, and being able to talk and write about your accomplishments is necessary if you want to get hired and later promoted within your company. However, a lot of us struggle with this and we end up selling ourselves short. So to help us learn how we can work on these skills, I sat down with career strategist Lizzie Jones, who's a former Fortune 500 recruiter. Keep watching for Lizzie's tips on how to communicate about your work wins, how to set yourself up for success in the job application process, and how an active LinkedIn presence can help you land jobs.
One thing I've noticed in speaking with a lot of students or early career professionals is that a lot of them sell themselves short. Why do you think this is so common, and what advice would you have for someone who struggles with communicating their accomplishments?
It is difficult, I think, for a lot of young people to be able to brag about themselves. And I think the underlying issue there is just a lack of organization of your thoughts. So the very first thing that you should do is just brainstorm the projects that you've done, the classes where you excelled at, and then get those data points on things that you've just done really well. And then you can categorize those things as leadership or communication or teamwork. So it's not a lack of confidence per se, it's kind of just the absence of understanding what all your wins are before you're able to communicate them.
I want to chat a little bit more about your experience as a former Fortune 500 recruiter. I'm sure you saw thousands of applications in your career. What were some of those common mistakes, like really easily avoidable mistakes that folks are making as they turn in these applications?
One big mistake that people make that's really easy to fix is just making sure that you fill out the application in whole. But there are a lot of people who are like, I'm applying to so many jobs, I don't want to fill out all the spaces. But the more information that you put into your profile, the more data points that they have about you and the more you can sell yourself. So make sure you're filling out all your applications to the fullest. The second thing is not having enough metrics in your resume. So that is a point that people kind of struggle with because they might have opportunities where they weren't held to certain metrics. And that's totally fine. You can do your own guesswork on how many metrics that you have in your job. So for example, if you're working on a project, you want to write down, okay, how long was the project for? How many people did you work on with that project? What was the budget for that project? So every single bullet point in your resume should have some sort of number in it. And it's not because it's a competition of having the most numbers on your resume. It's so people can understand the context of your role. Leading a team of 2 people, very different from leading a team of 10 people, right? So you want to have as many numbers as possible to paint a really good picture of yourself as a candidate.
How important is LinkedIn for today's job seekers?
It's extremely important to have a good LinkedIn profile. At this point, most people will link their LinkedIn profile on their resume, so recruiters will take a look at that as well. The LinkedIn profile is so cool because it's kind of like a living, breathing form of your resume. That is where you can write a summary about yourself. You can include greater detail about projects you've worked on, volunteer experiences that you've had. It tells a better picture of you as a candidate. So having a good LinkedIn profile is super helpful for the application process, but then it's even more helpful for networking. So before LinkedIn existed, you just really had to try to like look up people to find out who worked at a company. But on LinkedIn, it's so easy. You can just search a company name and then find people who work there and reach out to them. So it's important that every job seeker has an active LinkedIn profile.
And do you think it should be active all the time or just when people are looking for jobs? Because that's actually something I've heard a lot. Like, I only update my LinkedIn if I'm applying for a new job.
Yeah, the most effective part about LinkedIn is making those connections and building your presence online. So it's hard to do that sustainably if you only log in every time you need a job. So it's way more effective to be active consistently. And it doesn't honestly take a lot of time. It just means that, you know, you can set out like a few hours once a month to like go on LinkedIn and schedule some coffee chats, right? It doesn't have to be something that you have to check every single day.
I can definitely speak to Lizzie's point about LinkedIn because LinkedIn actually helped me get my current job anchoring the news for Seattle's PBS station. The hiring manager had heard about me through a mutual contact, and then they looked me up on LinkedIn, looked at my profile, and then contacted me on LinkedIn so we could find a time to chat. When I showed up for my job interview, it was clear that the hiring team had already taken the time to look through my LinkedIn profile and then click on those work samples because they already knew so much about me and my past work, which is great because during the job interview itself, I didn't have to put so much effort into trying to sell myself as a candidate or sell the skills that I had, or even talk about my past accomplishments because my LinkedIn profile had already done a lot of that work for me. So as we close the video, I'm going to leave you with some information on Lizzie's ebook, Master the Humble Brag. I already bought a copy for myself and would highly recommend it if you're someone who needs guidance on how to talk and write about your accomplishments as you apply for jobs. We are doing a giveaway for a copy of her ebook, so make sure to check out the description box below to learn how you can enter for a chance to win.
Master the Humble Brag is an ebook that I wrote earlier this year, and that was for people who are in their careers and they know that they've accomplished a lot of things, but it's hard for them to talk about it. It's something that I definitely dealt with a lot when I was searching for jobs. So Master the Humble Brag is a workbook where it guides you through exercises on how to list down all of the things that you've done really well in past experiences, how to categorize them, and then how to write about them effectively using metrics and keywords so that you can use that content for a resume, for a LinkedIn or introduction.